Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Farzy Show. My name is Marc Farzetta here at the Steven Sager Studios. Let me help you out for just a second here, people. For the people that don't have Hulu, I just want to offer my heartfelt congratulations. You didn't have to watch the slop that was that Flyers game last night as they lost 6-2 to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, some of you might be going, Marc, Farzy, Marc, Mr. Farzetta, sir, why are you talking about hockey when it's Cowboy Week? Well, I'll tell you why. Because to me, it's Penguin Week. See, I personally, and I know I'm in the vast minority here, I hate the Pittsburgh Penguins 1,000 times more than I hate the Dallas Cowboys. Now, why might that be? Well, I didn't really grow up with the whole, like, gotta hate the cowboy thing. Like, nobody in my family, well, one cousin, Steve, one cousin is a Dallas Cowboy fan. But that's pretty much it. But I didn't grow up with this, like, hatred of the Cowboys. We were always like we were baseball first house, then basketball, then actually hockey in terms of fan base, and then football. And I know that might seem ass backwards to most people in the Philadelphia region, but I just have always hated the Dallas Cowboys, or excuse me, the Pittsburgh Penguins more than I've hated the Dallas Cowboys. My father, we never played hockey growing up. I played one game of pond hockey where the house in the development I grew up in that had a pond. I played one game of pond hockey on that, so I could sit with my Bowers. And you've seen my Bowers when I've had the Nasty Knuckles guys on here before, and my Nike gloves. Yeah, damn right. That Nasty still praises me for, by the way, side note. But I played one game of pond hockey. So we didn't grow up playing hockey. We just grew up infatuated with the sport, in all of the sport. And I'll never forget one of my favorite games I ever watched when I was a kid was the Darius Kasparaitis game after he knocked Eric Lindros out. After that same game, it was a home and home, and I just remember thinking, this is what sports is all about. It's not even about actually like scoring goals and stuff. It's about fighting. It's about knocking the other guy out because they hit your captain, your team leader, and Eric Lindros. Like, as a kid, that's what I believed it was. And I've just been hooked on the Flyers ever since I was a little kid. And that's why I hate the Penguins so damn much. So originally going into last night, and I forgot on the show yesterday that the game was on Hulu and ESPN Plus. And it was like they were holding a Penguins versus Flyers game ransom last night. And then, after the third period, I believe it was 3-1 at that point. And the Flyers showed a little chippiness with the Penguins. A little scrum broke out. But I'm watching this, and I'm just like, you know what? They can hold this game hostage. Philadelphia is lucky that the majority of these people are not going to be able to see this game for not having Hulu or ESPN Plus. And that was obviously a game that I want to hear Jim Jackson on. I want to hear Jonesy on. I want to hear those guys break it down. I want to see my good friend Taryn Hatcher there at the intermissions breaking it down as well. Al Morgani as well. I want to see those guys break it down. But for me, I went into it thinking, why are they holding this game hostage? And then afterwards, in the 6-2 loss, I went, we're better off. We're better off as a society. So I want to acknowledge the fact that the Flyers got blown out by the Penguins last night. After the game, Cam Atkinson came out and said that this team needs to dig deeper. A lot of these guys need to look in the mirror and be the better version of themselves. And he also acknowledged that they left Carter Hart out to dry on a number of occasions last night. So, hey, hopefully the Flyers get a bounce back win. And rarely will these see. I wish I could run up a stat about how many times these teams have faced each other in terms of the Cowboys are playing the Eagles and the Penguins are facing the Flyers in the same week. And here we are in that week. Two of the most hated teams in Philadelphia are here, playing in Philly, nonetheless. Coming on our ice and our gridiron at Lincoln Financial Field on Saturday night, 8:15 kickoff. And I am still excited for the game. I don't know who's going to play. Nobody knows who's going to play or not. But we got one question answered finally yesterday. And it really had nothing to do because they keep on saying, Nick Siriani keeps on saying that they don't know who is going to play in this game. They are still trying to discuss that. They're still trying to figure that out. They're trying to weigh risk reward of rust versus rest in a game like this. I have stated yesterday, and I want you guys to know just how damn real I am, okay? You guys know I do some contributing work to Fox 29, right? And they hit me up yesterday, and they go, hey, we need you to come on with us tomorrow, meaning today, Friday, and we want you to argue with Eitan. They're like, do you know Eitan? I'm like, I've known Eitan for like 10 years. They go, I was like, wait, what's the argument? Who's Balder? Like, what's the argument there? And also be in the same room where people know that we're not the same person. Me, Eitan, and just as an aside, me, Eitan, and that other, the Sean. Oh my God, what the hell's the matter with me? Sean Brace. We always get confused for each other, so that's funny. But they want me to come on with Eitan, Fox 29, to argue about whether or not the starters should play. They said that Eitan was arguing starters should play. Marc, we want you to argue that they should not play. And I go, I'd love to do it, but if you want it to be real, I can't do that because I just went on a rant on my own show about why the starters should play in this particular game. Maybe not an entire game, maybe not even an entire half, but you need the starters to play. And I'll tell you why I'm shell-shocked. And here's the reason why I'm shell-shocked. So I refused the hit. I said, thanks, but no thanks. Maybe next time. And they said, oh, no problem. No. So that's how I was keeping it real. I didn't want to say one thing on this show and then go on another show and be like, no, everything I said on my actual show, I'm an idiot. I mean, that still remains true, but nonetheless. I'll reiterate why I am so shell-shocked, and I'm still shell-shocked from that moment, and it's the Joe Webb game. After the Joe Webb game, the Eagles got bounced out of the first round of the playoffs because they rested their guys in the final week of the season, and I believe that after that amazing the Miracle to Meadows Part 3 with Deshaun Jackson running it back on the punt return, that incredible run that they had in the final, what was it, like 20 points in 10 minutes in the fourth quarter against the Giants? That was just spectacular. But since then, they kind of hit a little bit of a lull, offensively speaking, and I wanted them to establish a little bit more of an offensive rhythm. They didn't do that. They got bounced out of the first round of playoffs, and I remember Mike Vick throwing to Riley Cooper to end that game, and I'm thinking, Riley Cooper's the guy we go to? So that's why I'm shell-shocked when it comes to whether or not you should play your starters at the end of the year. If you have shown some sputtering, as the Eagles have, especially when trying to jump out of the gate, instead of tripping over the gate when starting a football game, then maybe you want to try to get the offense jump-started a little bit. At least come out, have a couple series, get that confidence, and then get out. Especially if the Cowboys aren't going to be playing people in this particular game, especially if Micah Parsons, for instance, is not playing in this particular game. Why not just try to get some type of offensive offensive rhythm established and then sit it out? And then Gardner Minshew comes in. And then you see what the Eagles can do from that point on. I do find it interesting that the Eagles are more in a scenario of to hell with playoff seeding, even having the opportunity to move up to 6. To hell with that. Considering that all coaches talk about, including Nick Siriani, is just get to the tournament and see what happens. Still hate when they call it a tournament, but just get to the tournament and see what happens. Well, don't you want to be in the best possible position? At least ranked above one other person, just in case getting to the tournament and you see what happens, and what happens is a really good thing, and maybe somebody gets hurt, the whole tide of the game changes, maybe you have an opportunity to win some of these games instead of just walking into it thinking, oh, this team's going to get blown out. So to me, that's just a wild thing that they say, just get in and see what happens, when they're not all about getting in with the best possible scenario possible. Let's put it that way. So not playing your starters would lean more to the idea of not having the best case scenario play out for you. We're going to make it as easy as we can by getting there, but not really that easy. By taking possibly a harder road by being a lower seed, possibly. Kind of goes also against the whole putting your players in the best possible position to have success type of idea. But I guess we're just happy with being a 7. We're just happy to be in. We're just happy to be in the tournament. Okay, we'll take it as that. Speaking of the possibility of watching Gardner Minshew play, it finally happened, folks. Yesterday, at Nick Sirianni's press conference, he was finally asked the question about Gardner Minshew coming into his office after playing against the Jets and saying to Nick Sirianni, according to Chris Mortensen of ESPN, and we got it by way of Larry Brown Sports, who covered the story, Chris Mortensen reported a couple of weeks ago that Gardner Minshew walked in Nick Sirianni's office and said, what do I got to do to be the starter? I labeled it at the time kind of a dick move. You want to come in after you're traded to the Eagles and you say to Nick Sirianni, all right, look, I want to be a starter. How do I get to be the starter here? That's very nice of you there, Gardner. We got Jalen Hurts. Thank you very much for your troubles. After you start one game late in the season where your other quarterback already has you knocking on the playoffs door, That's kind of a dick move. That's the only time I would classify it as that. Other than that, I would classify it as, oh, the guy wants to play. Good for him. That's what he should say. That's why you say it initially when you come to Philadelphia, and that's it. You don't say it after you beat the Jets and you come in here and go, what am I going to do to be the starter? It should be known. It should already been established that that's your ultimate goal. And I don't think any quarterback in the NFL worth their salt is going, all right, where can I be a backup? You know what I mean? Maybe Chase Daniel. But even Chase Daniel spoke a big game. He's the guy that went to Drew Brees and said, I'm here to take your job, bro. Remains one of my all-time favorite quotes in Philadelphia sports history because he said it in his press conference when he came to Philly. But I don't think any quarterback worth their salt wants to be a backup. Like, nobody grows up and is like, oh, man, I hope one day I could be a backup quarterback. Never really have to play. Just get paid a crap ton of money and hold the is it even a clipboard anymore? Are we just doing the Microsoft Surface? Is that what they do? They just hold that now? Like, so most of these guys aren't even dressing. You see the guys in the sweats and the earpiece. Every backup quarterback should want to be a starter, and Nick Sirianni got into that yesterday. But our friend Zach Berman actually asked him the question about Gardner Minshew going into his office and what Nick could say about it. Now, I'll set it up with this. Nick Sirianni, to all his credit, didn't want to give the behind-the-scenes tour, and I could understand that. Nick Sirianni, though, was finally asked about that meeting with Minshew, and he said, and this is, I'll start it off, I'll set up the cut properly so I give you context here. He said that he doesn't want to violate the trust between player and coach, and that's what he values so much as a head coach. The conversations that they have in that office remain in that office. So without giving up too much detail, here's what he could tell us about Gardner Minshew and Gardner Minshew's attitude.
But I will say about Gardner, he is a competitor, and he's locked in, whether he is the backup, whether he's playing, right? There's, he's been in both scenarios this year, right? With the Jets game, playing in that game, not knowing if he was playing till late in that week. He's going to prepare like crazy no matter what the situation, and he's competitive. And so, of course, every backup that we have on this team, if they didn't want to be the starter, I'd have an issue with them being the backup. And so Gardner has played a lot of football in this league. I got a lot of confidence in him that he's our backup and that he's the player that he's in. I mean, right? We saw again. We always talk about wanting your backup quarterback to be able to come in and function and give you a chance to win. And we saw that he gave us. He was awesome in the game that he played against the Jets. And so, I would be disappointed if Gardner didn't want to be the starter. But obviously Jalen's our starter.
I have zero doubt in my mind that Gardner Minshew came into that office and look, Nick Sirianni said everything right, and that's a perfect way to put it. I don't want you as my backup if you don't want to be the starter. That's a great way to put it from Nick Sirianni. Eloquent words from Nick Sirianni. I agree. I don't want you as my backup if you don't want to be my starter. Let that be life lessons for everybody, all right? But I have zero doubt after listening to that Gardner Minshew totally walked into his office and was like, bro, what do I got to do to be the starter, bro? And then they probably bro-hugged for like a half hour, did some kind of handshake that's just theirs, and then discussed that it's Jalen Hurts' team going, and that's just the way it's going to be. I think that's kind of just how it broke down. I have zero doubt that the Chris Mortensen story is accurate. That he walked into his office, said he didn't want to be the starter, and Nick Sirianni was like, that's adorable, not happening. Like, I think that's kind of how it broke down. I think Nick Sirianni knows from jump, and that's why he's talking about what a competitor Gardner Minshew is. I have zero doubt in my mind that Nick Sirianni is well aware that Gardner Minshew thinks he should be starting for this team and thinks he should at least be a starter somewhere in the NFL. So I give a lot of credit to Zach Berman for asking that question, because I was shocked that nobody had asked that question for 2 weeks. And then finally, Zach Berman asked that question, so credit to him. Our guest today is Mike Kaye, friend of the show. As you guys know, Mike and I have a tendency to talk, so it's a bit of a long interview. We don't go into our other dream scenarios for dream jobs, like being on Saturday Night Live when we were kids. But we keep it mostly ball. We keep it mostly to ball. And Mike also explains, if you haven't seen it yet, he also explains his cover photo on Twitter. I don't know if that's a dragon, if it's some sort of lizard he has on his head, this mask-like contraption. If you remember some years ago, the horse head was kind of a thing. Like, people were wearing the horse head on their head, the horse mask, and it would just look really weird. Well, this is similar to that, except it's either a dragon or a lizard or something like that. Maybe we'll have time to get into the tombstone thing there, because he also says, you can see in his Twitter profile, that he's a tombstone advocate. I'm going to assume that's the movie and not the pizza. I like Wyatt Earp more than I like the movie Tombstone. I saw Wyatt Earp first, and then I saw Tombstone, and I think that's kind of how it goes. You see one, you compare it to the other. Whatever you saw second is as good as the first. But in watching Tombstone, I just thought it was like a corny action movie. I thought Wyatt Earp was a great story. Now, Wyatt Earp is about, I think, 17 hours longer than Tombstone. So that's, it's all about efficiency, I guess. But we'll have that conversation another day. But Mike Kaye got in a little Twitter beef with some people. The two people that I respect, John McMullen, who is on the postgame show I do, and then also with my friend Kevin Cooney, who's been a great writer for a lot of years in Philadelphia. And they were arguing about Howie Roseman. And it was like, Kevin was accusing John of being a Howie Roseman lover, and John was like, oh, yeah, he really loves me. And then Mike Kaye was like, does somebody want to argue facts here? Because I think Howie's done fine. Let me tell you where I stand on writer beefs. I don't give a damn. They're just having an argument over, everyone's favorite writer, Mike Sealski, and Marcus Hayes, both friends of the show. They got into an argument, and it's on Philly, I almost called it Philly.com, Inquirer.com, about whether or not Nick Sirianni has overachieved or underachieved with this football team. If you count the first couple of games of the season that they should have won, San Francisco 49ers, they get the big play to Quez Watkins, 90-some yards down the field, and they don't punch it in the end zone. You can blame Nick Sirianni for his awful red zone calls. You can also blame Nick Sirianni for losing to the Dallas Cowboys in week 3 for that awful game. 41-21, they lost that game. It's the only blowout they really suffered throughout the entire year, but they only ran the ball 2 times to a running back in the first half of that game. That's pitiful. You can also blame Nick Sirianni for a lot of that. I still didn't think they were going to beat the Cowboys in that game, but you can blame Nick Sirianni for some bad play calling and not making the adjustment really till the second half of that Raiders game, when you really think about it, about going to the run more and relying on your offensive line, your running backs, and then the overall athleticism of Jalen Hurts. So you can definitely talk about the overachieve, underachieve. I think bottom line is this team has overachieved throughout this season. And Mike Sealski, your favorite, and Marcus Hayes were debating that on Inquirer.com today. You could read that article as well. I definitely go with the overachieve. The fact that they've won 9 games, they have a chance at winning 10 games here, depending on what happens in this Cowboys game. I think that is a remarkable feat for a coach that started out as a nervous Nelly at a podium, and for a quarterback that no one was really sure was really ever going to warrant himself. Forget about the franchise conversation for a second, even as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I think he is absolutely, I think Jalen Hurts has done that, and Nick Sirianni has been a very pleasant surprise so far this season. And one of the things that Mike and I get into in this conversation is how Nick Sirianni has related to the locker room so easily. And Mike brought up an interesting point. I'll let him get to it. But I was looking for that reason yesterday, because you expect that from a guy like Doug Peterson, who's been a player, who's been in the locker room, who has been through the league. You don't expect that from a guy like Nick Sirianni, who has just been a coach or a position coach or a coordinator who didn't call plays. You don't expect him to identify with the locker room nearly as much as he has. But he has in this Eagles locker room, and that is remarkable for a non-player. The reason why, I think Mike Kaye has a great reason why. Something else I talked to you guys about. I got a couple more things I want you to hear from Nick Sirianni, but I talked a lot about the Eagles defense and whether or not Jonathan Gannon has overachieved or underachieved. I think he has played and called games very timid. I think that's a good word for the way he calls games as a defensive coordinator. Timid. All right? It's a touch below scared. And when you look at some of the personnel that he has, you can understand why you would be a little timid. I think in the second half of the season, similar but not as drastic to Nick Sirianni, I feel like Jonathan Gannon has called a different game plan, a different game. And that goes with the word aggression. In the first half of the season, hardly any blitzes, hardly any trying to force mistakes or anything like that. And then things changed a little bit with the the LA Chargers. And in that game, if you remember, Pro Football Focus put out the stat that the Eagles blitzed more in that game than they had all season. We had Quentin Michael on the show that week following the Chargers game to break that down for us. What did he see as a longtime NFL defensive player? And he goes, yeah, there were blitzes, but they weren't really blitzes because you're really only sending 4 guys, 5 guys, and that's really not blitzing. You got to send guys to make mistakes. And I thought, that sounds good to me. And there's a disciple of the Jim Johnson defense, as we all know. So when it comes to watching this type of defense, a timid 4-man or 5-man blitz ain't really a blitz. But you have seen slightly more aggression from Jonathan Gannon over the last 8 weeks of the season than you have in the prior 8 weeks of the season. And even to say slightly more means he's actually doing it compared to what he was doing in the first half of the season. But when you're doing it with Alex Singleton, when you're doing it with inexperienced defensive backs at times, whether that's Zach McPherson, whether that's Marcus Epps, whoever that might be, and that's not just corners, that's all DBs, that's safeties included, they tend not to get home as much as you would like them to because they're not going to be measured up to a guy like Micah Parsons, for instance. So what I'm saying is the talent needs to be better, I think, for Jonathan Gannon to be a little bit more aggressive with his defensive game plan. But bottom line is this. You have a defense right now that is ranked 7th in the league in yards allowed per game. And you have a defense right now, checks notes, that is 9th in the league in points allowed per game. You have a top 10 defense, top 9 to be more specific, in 2 of the most important categories that you could have. Yards and points. I didn't think that'd be possible in the first half of the season. So yes, is the talent they're playing against anything worth bragging about? No. But here's the other thing here to look at it as a glass half full. You got to play who's in front of you. It's the bottom line. They could suck. They could really, really suck against Jake Fromm, against Tyler Heineke. They could suck against Gilbert Garrett, was his name? Like, you can only play who's in front of you. You can either choose to do really good, or you can choose to be embarrassed. You can choose to do what you should do against lower tier talent, or you could be embarrassed. So I'm glad that at least this Eagles defense has chosen let's do what we're supposed to do and not suck against someone who really sucks. Good job. Go through the formula one more time. Good teams beat bad teams. Eagles are not a bad team. Great teams beat good teams. Eagles are they're an okay team. But bottom line is you can describe them this year and the first year Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts as the starting quarterback as a playoff team. I want to get to a couple more things here. Luigi, I see you, brother. Yeah, it's snowing, by the way, folks. It was snowing. It was snowing. I don't know if it still is. Playing starters is the big question going into this game. Here is the latest answer asked by our friend Mike Kaye of NJ.com. Will join us in just a minute.
Hey, Nick, I got a 2-parter for you. Are you going to rest your starters in the finale, including Jalen Hurts? And if not, with the guys you have on COVID and the little control you guys have on seeding, what would be the logic of playing those starters in this game?
That's still something that we're discussing and we're working through. And so everybody is ready to go. Even the guys that are out of the building right now are ready to go this week because of the preparation that we've had by everybody throughout the week. And so that's just still something we're sorting through, and every situation will be looked at differently. We're very aware that we don't control our own destiny as far as the 6th or 7th seed, like you referred to, and so again, just we're not control over when the guys get back with COVID. We're not control over guys they're dealing with some bumps and bruises and injuries, and so everybody's being discussed. As far as everybody's being treated as a different scenario. We've discussed all these. We're continuing to discuss all these, but our goal is to win this football game against a rival, and I know that's their goal as well, and that should be all of our goals. And so we're ready to go. We're prepared, and everybody's prepared because we know there's a lot of different scenarios as far as guys' availability and stuff like that at this particular point.
That's a lot of words right there from our boy Nick Sirianni about whether or not the starters are going to play or not. I'm going to go in and say they don't play. I think in this scenario, they're just going to try to get into the playoffs as healthy as possible. I do think Jalen Hurts' ankle is still bothering him. He's a full participant in practice, according to the report yesterday. Long after that interview, they finally came out with their injury report, and they said that Jalen Hurts was a full participant with the ankle, but he's still on there. Nick Sirianni later explained it in the press conference yesterday, saying that he has an ankle injury. So, of course, he's going to be on there, even if he's a full participant or not. I would say the only guy that might get some reps is Jason Kelce. I think the streak matters a lot to him and to the Eagles about how many games he starts. That's the only thing in the back of my mind that makes me go, oh, they might actually play their starters. I'm like 90% sure the vast majority of their starters won't play. But if Jason Kelce does play, you might see the old first quarter of a preseason game where the starters are out there for a series or two before they come off the field. But my bet is they don't play. My bet is we don't see Jalen Hurts on Sunday or Saturday night in prime time. That's my bet. And we'll have to look at ESPN and be like, sorry, flex this game into your schedule. Miss Scusi. Last one from Nick Sirianni, and this one's just for funsies because, well, damn it, I just appreciate people who speak with their hands so much. Nick Sirianni talks about not changing philosophy or scheme now that they're in the playoffs, sticking to what's been working for them.
No man suddenly becomes different than his cherished thoughts and habits. It's not like you all of a sudden you're in the playoffs and boom, you forget how to work, or boom, you change who you are and how you've prepared for 17 weeks, right? And vice versa. If you haven't prepared hard for 17 weeks, it's not like, boom, oh, I might get a chance to play. I'm going to go a little bit harder today, right? And so, so we're big into habits, and this team has great habits.
He's talking about why they wouldn't need to play their starters, for instance, because they got great habits. They're not going to fall into bad habits. They practice well. They do everything well. Boom, over here, they're over here practicing really hard. Boom, over here, their philosophy is really good. Boom, over here, they really love ball. Boom, over here, they just want to beat the Cowboys again to the playoffs again, and maybe more than a 7 seed if it happens. If not, they'll just be a 6 seed. Boom, they'll just be happy to be there. That's the epitome of Nick Sirianni. If I ever do produce the movie Roots, Paper, Scissors, the Nick Sirianni story, and I, of course, play the title character, I will really look forward to talking with my hands even more so than I do, just in honor of Nick Sirianni. And yes, I will wear a visor over my eyes as if I'm in witness protection. Yes, I will. Let me tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right in Philadelphia, right on Jewelers Row, in the love business here in the city of brotherly love for over 40 years. You looking to get engaged? Looking for a beautiful diamond ring? How about a Ready for Love diamond engagement ring from Steven Singer? They're at the ready, folks, so it's not just a clever name. And everyone that walks in to Steven Singer Jewelers, you know what they get? Not only that they get treated like family, they get treated with the perfect price every single day. So you don't have to worry about negotiating or haggling or anything like that. No pressure sales. When you walk in to Steven Singer Jewelers, it's a very relaxing experience. When I send people to Steven Singer, which is not just my audience, and you guys are fantastic, people in my own personal life that I say, hey, you're getting engaged? Yeah, how about that? They're like, yeah, can you set me up with Steven? And I go, can I set you up with Steven? You're damn right I can. And you know what? They always come back. That was so easy. There's no pressure. Like, they feel like they're going to go in there and they're going to get pressured into buying a diamond. No. Not how it works at Steven Singer. They show you the beautiful merchandise, the beautiful inventory. You make the decision for yourself. It's just that simple. IHateStevenSinger.com is how you get fast and free shipping at Steven Singer Jewelers. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping. Without further ado, let's jump on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. Talk to our good friend Mike Kaye about all things Philadelphia Eagles. On the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line, our good friend from NJ.com, as well as the No Huddle podcast, the No Huddle Show podcast, our friend Mike Kaye from NJ.com. What's up, Mike?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. Is it every single time, man? I think you and our friend Paul Hudrick have a different look every time you're on the show. This time you're going with the hat and the well-groomed facial hair, by the way, I might add.
Really? I feel like I've got some random stuff popping up now that I've been on here, and I'm like, oh no. I don't know. So what are you going to do?
You look like $1 million, my friend. You look like $1 million. Last time we spoke, we talked a lot about this Eagles offense, and we talked a lot about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. I want to start go a little bit deeper than what we've talked about a lot over the last couple of months when it comes to this football team. And we've talked about Howie Roseman a little bit this week, and we've talked a little bit about Jonathan Gannon, but I want to get a little bit more of a deeper dive down that avenue. Jonathan Gannon and Howie Roseman have something in common. No matter how good their units might be performing, they don't get a lot of praise no matter what. When it comes to Jonathan Gannon, what type of season do you think the first-year defensive coordinator has had?
Middling. Everything about this team has been middling. But the thing is middling is good enough to beat this schedule and to lay a foundation. It's the whole thing of the transition period. Like being a rebuilding franchise doesn't mean you tank or you lose. It just means you're setting the base for what can happen in future years. And I think this year they actually did it right. I think they drafted relatively well. They're going to have, I believe, 8 rookies play over 8 games, or they're going to have 8 rookies play over 14 games. That's pretty crazy. They have an undrafted free agent who's going to play over 550 snaps. Their first 2 picks look like they have the upside to be, at the very least, Pro Bowlers. Look, everything's relative, right? And I think, look, I don't think Gannon really has the talent to play the type of defense that he wants to. I think they, outside of TJ Edwards, they're very underwhelming at linebacker. Their safety play has been very up and down, even though Rodney McLeod's had 2 huge plays in back-to-back games. I think this is the best cornerback play they've had since the early 2010s. But I do think that they need help, and I think they need some youth at defensive end. They need some better faces at linebacker. And by better faces, I mean better talent, not necessarily that Alex Singleton has a bad face, because I'm sure I'd hear about that. But no, I think they've set a foundation, right? They beat up bad quarterbacks. That's what good teams do, or what middling teams do. Now it's about proving you can beat good quarterbacks. And they're going to get to go to the playoffs. And, I think the thought process is that they're going to get stomped, and that's fine. But a lot of critics also thought this was going to be the worst roster in the league and the worst team in the league at the beginning of the season. And I just think, I hate to say I told you so, but I had them winning 9 games. Mm-hmm. I had it since May. And my logic was not even that exhilarating or hot takey. If you're good in the trenches and you can stay healthy in the trenches, the rookie class performs at the level it's supposed to, which I'd give it a B overall. And they take advantage of their weak road schedule. They're 5-3 on the road, they were 6-3 on the road. And then, they take advantage of their NFC East matchups towards the end of the year. They're 3-2 right now. They're probably going to finish 3-3 if they sit all their players on Saturday. I mean, that's 9 wins. Mm-hmm. So I think, they've done what a middling team should do. They should beat up on inferior teams and beaten up teams, and none of this should surprise anyone.
Mm-hmm. My way of explaining it was they're not a bad football team, but a good football team beats a bad football team, but a good football team does not beat a great football team, and that's what the Eagles are far from. They could be in that good range, and they can beat up on the bad teams, but when it comes to trying to be great, that's where I think they're a far cry from. I want to go back to something you said about Jonathan Gannon's defense. He's not doing what he wants to do. Is this more of the perfect example, though, of a coach coaching to what he has as opposed to what his alleged scheme might be with a little bit more talent?
Well, he'd tell you he doesn't have a scheme.
Right.
But, yeah, I think so. I think they're trying to see what works. And that's why they're so vanilla. Like, they don't have the safeties to make up for being more aggressive at corner. They don't have the linebackers to be more aggressive in blitzing. Like, that's simple football. I mean, look, if you look at Howie Roseman is going to get praise probably later in the show for me. But if you look at the defense, he's had only 2 homegrown players that have become starters, like legitimate starters, in Josh Sweat and TJ Edwards in recent years, right? Like Derek Barnett's fine, whatever. Right. He was a first-round pick, but obviously he's played below his level of talent. They had to sign Darius Slay. They had to sign Steve Nelson. I guess you could say Avonte Maddox as well. Avonte Maddox having a good year at nickel, but like both their safeties were free agent signings. I mean, Rodney McLeod's obviously been around for a while. Javon Hargrave was a free agent signing. Fletcher Cox was drafted at the beginning of the last decade. Like, there is a talent issue on defense, especially from a youth standpoint. And so I think what you're going to see with these future, they have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds this summer or this offseason. Those are going to be that's going to be the focus, because realistically, they've raised the offensive prowess from an internal standpoint with Dickerson and Devontae Smith and Quez Watkins and Dallas Goedert and Jack Stoll even and Jordan Mailata. Lane Johnson's going to be around for a bit. I am not convinced Jason Kelce's going to retire. That's just an opinion. He's playing out of his mind. Jalen Hurts is young. So I think in free agency, you handle the offense, you upgrade the wide receiver position with a veteran, and then you really look at defense in the draft. Now, you don't have to force picks. Like, if Linderbaum is available and you feel like Jason Kelce's going to retire in a year, then you obviously go after that guy. But I'm just saying, I think their strategy will be to go after defense in this draft, which is the right move because they've invested in so much youth on offense.
I know we got a whole offseason to talk about it, but do you actually see them taking 3 first-round picks, 3 players in the first round? Yeah,
I did a mock draft yesterday where I had them taking 3 defenders, but I did that because then you get all convoluted with the trade back stuff. Ideally, what I think you want to do is take that second first-round pick, try to trade back into the first half of the second round and try to get a 2023 first-round pick if you can, because if Jalen Hurts doesn't work out, you've got another roll of the dice in 2023. If you have 2 first-round picks, maybe you can package those. And if he does well, then you continue to build around him.
I do want to switch it to Howie Roseman for a second here, because you mentioned the rookie class. Talk about Devontae Smith. You talk about Landon Dickerson. Milton Williams even showed a couple of flashes, a very late-round pick. They took a flyer on there at defensive tackle. How would you evaluate Howie Roseman to this point this season with this team making it back to the playoffs?
Well, if the past 2 years have been a C and a D minus, this year's probably a B plus or a B. Look, I like his rookie class. And here's the thing, too, that I think needs to be kind of taken into account. He was killed for the Jalen Hurts pick. He was killed for the trade for Darius Slay and the extension. He was killed for the Javon Hargrave signing. Now, those are the 2 best players on defense and his starting quarterback that just led the team to a playoff run. So I think while it didn't work out last year, I think what he's done, even when things have been bad, have started to work out for him. But we also know he's a guy who can build up programs. He's not a guy who can sustain. And so I think he has set himself up to sustain by getting these 3 first-round picks. If you remember, 2018 and 2019, he had like a combined 10 picks. The last couple of years, he's had 8 and 9. So, or 9 and 8. No, 10 and 9. Excuse me. Sorry, the numbers are all over the place.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I think the criticism of Howie is either always overzealous or heavy. Or the criticism of him is always overzealous, and the praise of him is always overzealous. Realistically, he is. If you look at it statistically, right, just based on facts, okay. The past 5 years are a run that has only been kind of mimicked by like 3 other organizations over the past 20 years. Like he's made. I came here post Super Bowl. I've covered 3 playoff runs already. Like that's wild, right? So they've won 2 division titles, a Super Bowl, been to the playoffs 4 times in the last 5 years, and he is the main constant in that success. He's also been a constant in the most successful period in the organization's history. I mean, like, I think, look, if you want to talk about his character with stuff that's been reported, totally understand that criticism. If you want to criticize his draft record, absolutely. He has had some horrific decisions. The Rager over Jefferson pick is going to go down as one of the worst decisions in franchise history. I'm less concerned about the JJ over DK thing. Once you get into the second round, that kind of becomes muddled. The Andre Dillard thing, I think the thought process was smart. They just picked the wrong guy. And it ended up working out with Jordan Mailata. So and a lot of people are going to say, well, they just, they took a flyer on Jordan Mailata. Well, somebody had to do it, and he's the only one that did it. So for that to work out, and then for them to double down over the past 2 years, look, his second year here, last year, he was getting beat like a drum by Joe Osman. He was the worst player in camp, and they decided to stick with him anyway, and he worked out to be a top-tier left tackle over the past 2 years.
Wow.
So I think his patience in some regard, well, people say that he plays favorites, that worked out with Jordan Mailata.
Mm-hmm. No, it certainly did, yeah.
I think with Jalen Hurts, would you trade a second-round pick to guarantee that you were in the playoffs?
Yes.
That's the question that you should ask yourself, right?
Right. Absolutely. No, I mean, look, I was one of the people shouting from the rooftops what a stupid pick at the time was. You take a quarterback in the second round when you just inked Carson Wentz to the huge deal. That doesn't exactly always work out for teams. That's usually a very bad move. I don't know if he knew there was writing on the wall that stuff was really going to hit the fan. I almost cursed there. That stuff was really going to hit the fan there with Carson Wentz. But whatever it was, it ended up working out for Howie, being that you just stated the resume of Jalen Hurts, what he's doing in his first year as a starting quarterback, albeit for being killed as a second-round pick.
Well, and I've had people call me out on social media. I've been on radio shows where people think I've laid it on thick with Howie. If you want to talk about facts, legitimately, and you don't want to I think a lot of the criticism for Roseman comes in a vacuum, right? It's this is how he's upset the fan base, or this is how he's made something wrong, as opposed to comparing him to other GMs. And sometimes a lot of people compare GMs without understanding how many misses they've had.
Mm-hmm.
You could poke holes in most GMs.
Sure.
I don't think Howie's an elite GM at all. I don't think he's a great GM. I think he's a good GM. I think he's in that 8 to 12 range in the league. And I think they're always competitive. Even last year when they were falling apart, they stayed competitive within the division for the most part until the end, until Nate Sudfeld played. No, I'm just kidding. But I think, for all his faults, they are constantly competing. He had a lot of say in hiring Nick Siriani, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And that turned out to be the right move. I think he gets too much praise sometimes and he gets too much credit, but realistically, the grass isn't greener on the other side unless you're finding, Brian Gutekunst, who's in Green Bay. He's got a generational quarterback who he pisses off all the time. Excuse me, you can bleep that out if you want.
No, it's fine.
People talk about Chris Ballard, who traded for the quarterback that the terrible GM allegedly mismanaged, and has not beaten the Jaguars on the road in his entire tenure, nor has he won a division title in a division where at least one team almost always has 4 or less wins. I think you look at Les Snead, who has been boasted about as this aggressive guy. Well, the roster he put together and traded away draft picks for scored 3 points against virtually the same team that Howie Roseman's roster scored 41 points on the year before. I think you look at Steve Keim and Jason Licht, 2 guys that failed to make the playoffs and failed with their premium quarterback picks until they lucked into other guys because they were given extra rope. I just think every GM has bad picks. Every GM has bad decisions. What's their record, right? That, right. Who's going to the playoffs every year? You know what I mean? I think that's, if you want to argue facts, that's fine. But I think when you hurl insults and you call, people names and do whatever, I just think that's a waste of time. I see a lot of people really attack Howie's character, and look, based off the reporting, it's not great. It isn't. And believe me, other teams recognize it. I've talked to agents who say he's not very trustworthy, but he knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And that's better than a lot of GMs who don't know what they're doing or are untrustworthy. So, who are both, So I think, look, he's had a good year this year. None of it matters unless they nail next year. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Mm-hmm. Howie has to put together a string of good off seasons, which is something he hasn't really done. And I think that's kind of where the fan base should look. I think a lot like Jalen Hurts, Howie has bought himself another year of evaluation by performing well this year.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, I want to go to that for a second because you kind of hinted to it earlier in one of your other answers about Jalen Hurts. saying if he doesn't work out next year. So you do see him as the starting quarterback for this team next year.
Barring some like dream scenario where Russell Wilson's like, man, we just watched Mayor of Easttown. I got to jump to Philly. You know what I mean? Like, just adore those accents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like Sierra's just like, man, I got to get some gyms. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be, because I think to me, he's the one that got away. I think he's a guy that they probably think about and say, wow, could you imagine if we would have gotten this guy
right
for 12 years or whatever? And by the way, the other guy that they drafted instead of him won a Super Bowl too. They have as many rings. So
yeah, how many picks was Foles and Russell Wilson? Was it like 3 picks, 4 picks, something like that in the third round?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was close. Just remember it was close. But anyway.
Yes, it was close.
Yeah.
But look, I think he's earned it. Like on the surface, he has earned it. That locker room adores him. He's really won over Nick Siriani, who you can tell genuinely cares about the guy. They've bonded over being coach's sons. Brian Johnson has a long-term relationship with Jalen Hurts. I think, look, he's got to improve his vision. He's got to improve his accuracy. But I think he has over the last couple of games. You're noticing in the 2 games, particularly against Washington, he looked like a genuine franchise quarterback. He was making great reads, great throws, but he's not doing it consistently enough. And I think that that's the problem. Now, these slow starts on offense, I don't put completely on him. I think it's just been a perfect storm of terribleness. They got to figure that out, because if they go up against the Rams and they have one of those slow starts, they're going to lose almost within the first quarter, and it's going to be. But like, I think for this team, it's a positive they got to the playoffs. Like they really had no business making the playoffs. I had them at 9 wins, not making the playoffs. But I think, look, I think it says a lot about Nick Sirianni and his will. And look, he was getting trashed by literally everybody. The flower plant talk, like. But what I liked about him in researching him, when I was breaking news on him potentially getting hired in his interviews and everything, he's such a good teacher, and he relates to players in a way that no one else we've seen. Like even Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson's a former coach and a former quarterback. But Sirianni's like generationally closer to these kids, like, and these players. And I think Zach Berman, our friend's going to give me crap for calling them kids. He hates when I do that. But like these guys are legitimately, like, they're born in like 98 and 99. Like right. Sirianni was a teenager then, at least. You know, Doug was ending his career around that point. So I think there's that. I think this coaching staff is very young and has been, for the most part, effective in their teaching. And I think, look, Jalen Hurts is a guy who has galvanized this locker room. People care about him. People respect him. And look, I think his intangibles are off the charts. He's extremely smart. He's very comfortable in his own skin. He's a proactive leader. I mean, you saw with the letter to Washington in the league. I mean, he is a guy who cares about other people, and it shows. And I think that's won him the locker room.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. He's got a fan in me. He definitely does. Do the starters play Sunday? Well, or excuse me, Saturday night. I keep on doing that. All week I've been saying Sunday. Will the starters play for the Eagles? Will the starters play for the Cowboys Saturday night?
I think you'll see some starters for the Eagles, but I would be shocked if they play more than a series. I think the Cowboys will try to get up early and then maybe rest guys. But really, if you look at what the Eagles are doing, I actually asked Nick Sirianni on Thursday, I said, you know, I got a 2-part question for you. Are you going to rest your starters on Saturday? And, you know, with 12 guys on the COVID list and some injuries to notable players, and you're not really able to really change a lot of seating, are you going to – why would it make sense to play players? And he gave me this long, convoluted answer. And
I heard that. I caught that.
Look, Jason Kelsey's got a starting streak that I think if he gets off the COVID list, they would love to keep going. But Jalen Hurts has an ankle injury that I think is worth healing. You know, if you remember, the Eagles traded a conditional 6th-round pick for Gardner Minshew before week 1, and the condition was that if he played 50% of the offensive snaps in 3 games, then it would turn to a 5th round pick. Well, there's one game remaining. He's only played over 50% of the snaps once, so that can't happen. So they traded a 6th round pick for him. So there's no draft,
implication. Yeah.
So look, I mean, and I would also say, look, this is a lucrative opportunity for the Eagles. One, it gives their young players a lot of experience. You're going to see guys like Cameron Malveaux and Jacoby Stevens get some time. It's also going to rest some guys. This team's being asked to play 4 games in 19 days. Like, that's ridiculous. So you get some guys, some notable experience. Plus, if Minshew's out there and he looks good, Minshew can buy himself a potential starting job next year and potentially a notable pick for the Eagles when they got him for, a travel thermos.
Yeah, but by the way, I meant to thank you at the top of the show for doing that math for me. I heard you ask that question earlier in the week, and I'm like, oh, good, Mike already did the math. I appreciate that. Last one for you, my friend. We talked earlier in the show about you changing your look. The top portion of your, what is this, the cover photo on your Twitter profile? Yes. People can check you out right there. Is that an alligator head? What do you got on there? And I assume, is this you in Jacksonville?
No, this is in Detroit. It was Halloween, and I was missing my kid's Halloween, and I was furious about it. And my mom flew up from Florida to go trick-or-treating with my wife and my son, and she brought this mask for some reason. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wear this in the press box because, it's times like these you treasure. I mean, we're going to Detroit of all places. And so I put that on, and a bunch of people took pictures. And I'm not a whoa, look at me type of guy. I mean, I'm an outgoing guy, but whatever. But I was doing a TV spot with CBS, our good friend Pat Gallen, and I decided at the end of my segment I would put on the mask. So I kept it on. It was hot, and so I had it on, and coincidentally, that's when the Eagles turned things around. I also thought it was pretty funny. I won a Halloween contest at NJ.com, unbeknown to me. I mean, look, you got to celebrate the holidays, right?
Right.
I was super bummed. Like, you can ask my partner Chris Franklin. I was super bummed to miss my kid's first cognitive Halloween. He's about to turn 3 next week, but he's really into Halloween. I hear about this trick or treating, and I'm just like, man, I'm missing this. So I did that. I FaceTimed him with the mask on, and it was funny. So I kept it, but I'm sure I'll change the banner eventually, but not to Joe Banner, but I will change the banner eventually. You and I always like to have some fun with my social media or my facial hair.
Oh, of course.
Maybe next time I'll wear a shark head on the show, just the entire time. It'll be a running gag. I'll just wear a mask every single time.
Is your kid into the Baby Shark? He like the Baby Shark?
Yeah, he likes Baby Shark. Do. You know what's weird? The first time I ever heard that song, and a lot of people make fun of me, it was Carson Wentz's charity event, his last softball tournament that he had. Nate Sudfeld, that was his entrance music. And Berman turns to me because Berman knows everything. He's like, "You've never heard of Baby Shark?" I'm like, but I won't tell you what I actually said. But
no. I get it. I can put it together. Don't worry.
I made a tall joke, but anyway.
Zach's the best. He would be laughing along with us.
Zach is one of my favorite people. He gives me such a hard time. We have this Abbott and Costello connection. I would love to him and I just on a road trip. Because everybody likes to hate on me and say I'm annoying and all this other stuff, which is
I find you charming. No, I find you charming.
Well, but you know me, I like to talk a lot, and I don't always have a direction of where I'm going. So
you too?
Well, we have a big a little big brother, big little brother sort of thing, and I've always respected Zach. I think he's a terrific journalist and a good friend. Don't tell him I said that. I'm sure he doesn't watch the show, so it's
he's been on. I will play this little segment just for him.
Did you have to wake up at like 4 a.m. because that's the only time he ever does anything?
No, Zach is definitely one of the people that I have to like really be on top of my game and like hit him up the day before. And like that's the kind of that's how I have to roll with Zach.
Yeah, you just text me like 6 minutes before the show's on. You're like, "Hey, my wife just got off the phone. Do you want to be on the show?" Sorry, 10 other people like passed. I was gonna get Boston Scott and Cameron Malvo and
Joe Osman. You mentioned him earlier.
Joe Osman, the shark from Jaws.
Oh yeah,
and you were fifth. So it's like. I mean, that's at least I'm not sixth like the Michelin Man or whoever your sixth choice was. But yeah, I mean, look, this has been a weird week because like the interest in the game obviously isn't there. We don't know who the opponent will be for the playoffs. But what I will say is this: I think Philadelphia is reactionary, and it's kind of what makes this the best sports city in the world is everybody has an opinion and everybody thinks they're right. And everybody has like some sort of knowledge or perspective or whatever. But I think, coming from Jacksonville and also obviously knowing this team, the perspective of knowing a team that's tripping over itself constantly and a good organization. Look, I was heavily critical on Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman. I said that Lurie is a long-term problem that can't be solved because he's the owner. And look, I think he knocked this hire out of the park. I think if you look at this, every single hire that he has made at head coach has gone to the playoffs in one of their first 2 years. Like, that's bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the whole meddling and everything else, that's a whole other storyline. But, like, again, I think I think we need to do a better job as a society of criticizing when somebody does something wrong, but also praising when somebody does something right. And I think that that's been the biggest issue with Howie Roseman's tenure. And frankly, he's given a lot of examples of both. So it's like it just depends on what you harp on.
Mm-hmm.
But the Eagles are in the playoffs for the fourth time in 5 years. I'm going probably to Tampa or LA and in the middle of winter, which is not a bad, get. And maybe I'll listen to a book on tape or, finish my Dave Grohl book or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Very nice. This is the absolute last one. So when we get an Antonio Brown here in Philadelphia, when's that happening?
Oh man.
Is that the train wreck of train wrecks?
I mean, look,
unbelievable.
There's two sides to every story.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that one's correct. And I just like, that's like the last thing this team needs.
I couldn't agree more. That's all I'm looking for. I couldn't agree more.
They've been pretty much drama free. I mean, like even the drama that they have had, it's worked out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So go with what you got. It's when you're in the fantasy playoffs, you got to go with what got you there. And I think that's, they're hoping they draw Tampa is my guess.
Okay.
Because that team is banged up and now they're dealing with some serious drama. So, and they've also played them before, so they know what to expect. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. I think the Rams will just like light up the sky on them. Even though I think Les Snead's approach to building rosters is never going to fully pay off, but we'll see.
I just think if they do play the Rams, they're literally just going to have everyone at the goal line the entire game, just all 11 people. That's the way they'll play.
I actually think Slay's a good Odell Beckham Jr. is a better matchup for Slay than Mike Evans. It's just everybody else that's really tough.
Sure. Mike Kaye, ladies and gentlemen, NJ.com. Here he is once again in his award-winning mask. It's fantastic. NJ.com, also co-host of the No Huddle Show as well, and Tombstone Advocate. That's a conversation for another day. Mike Kaye, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
We're a couple of chatty Cathys. What can I say? My thanks to Mike Kaye for joining the show as per usual. And yes, the next time we have Zach Bourbon on, we're definitely going to be playing that segment for him. I now need to see at some point in my life before I die. I need to see Mike Kaye and Zach Berman do Who's on First, which to all the kids out there, because Who's on First, that bit is not only old for me, it's old for my parents, and it's probably too old for some of your grandparents. To all the kids on this fine website that enjoy the social medias and whatnot, it's an old bit. It's a phenomenal bit. It's one of the classic comedic bits of all time. But now I need Mike Kaye, Zach Berman, who's on first. I'll let them decide who's Bud Abbott and who's Lou Costello. Yeah, I know their names. But my thanks to Mike Kaye joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line. Let me tell you about Rothman Orthopaedics. Hey, remember the old you? The one who didn't have to put up with a fickle knee, a finicky hip, or a shoulder, and no longer does what a shoulder should do? The Rothman approach to orthopedics is here to get you back to being you, back to running, walking, working, playing, back to living your life the way you want. With same-day appointments available right now, you can get started at RothmanOrtho.com. That's RothmanOrtho.com. Rothman Orthopaedics, the official orthopedic partner of your Phillies, Eagles, and Sixers. How about the amazing people of WinView? WinView is the only game where fans can take on other fans and end the debate once and for all. Who knows more about sports? Who is the bigger sports fan? Have those friends and family members that think they know everything about sports? Well, challenge them to a WinView contest. Just download the app and see if they can walk the walk as well as they talk the talk. So annoying with their know-it-all personalities. WinView is here to solve that problem for you. It's not a sports book. It's not daily fantasy. It's a social gaming app where fans can take on other fans and win real money prizes for making predictions on the games that you love so much. Like tonight, I'm telling you, stick with the Joel Embiid over when it comes to the game tonight against the San Antonio Spurs. Back home, 7 o'clock tip-off tonight in South Philadelphia. Stick with the JoJo over. Believe it's going off right now at 27.5. So let's stick with that one. Also, want to tell you about the great people at PHL Sports Station. Make sure you download the WinView app to your phone right now. How about the people at PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs, PHLSportsNation.com. How about, ladies and gentlemen, BetQL. If you want to get the advantage over your sports book, then you need to download the BetQL app, the only app you'll need to make the smart bets. So before you go to your sports book of choice, make sure you download the BetQL app. Their best bets computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports. And they give you the reasoning behind why you should place that bet. Their model covers everything from point spreads, over-unders, player props. If you don't want to use that model or prefer to do your own research, BetQL has all the necessary tools for your betting research needs. Everything from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, lineups, injuries, breaking news. They even have a leaderboard for you to track your own success. Head to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download the BetQL app. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show, the chat check. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get involved, see what everyone had to say today throughout our interview and throughout the show. April leads it off. Good morning, April. Kevin, what's going on? Happy Football Friday to you. Ronald, Mike Kaye, better moonlight as a weather girl. Wow, Luigi, right out of the gates. You know the weather guy from Family Guy, the weather fella? It's going to rain. That guy, I feel like that every time Luigi asks me a weather question. It's going to snow. And it did snow. It did snow. We got a couple of inches out here in Philly. I know some areas you might get 6 inches. That's the most I saw. But until you get to like the Poconos, it was like 12 feet. Okay. I don't live there. Good morning, all. Good morning, John. Ian, what's going on? Sean, how are you? Luigi again. I also get you three confused with Mark Jackson sometimes. See? Yes. That was me, Eitan, and Sean Brace. Tell them they better like and subscribe? Huh? Luigi Jones. Ken, good morning. Clifton. I like a Clifton. What's up, Clifton? Welcome in. Matt Hatter, excuse me. Just playing two-hand touch. Buck's about to have a lot of COVID tests. Thanks, AB. That's the not the Milwaukee Bucks for the record, even though it's spelled that way, but no worries. Welcome in. Julian, what's going on? Oh, April, it got you again. It got you twice. Bucks. Damn, autocorrect. You're right. April, I didn't realize that was you. April just had one of those mornings where it's just like, you know what? I'm done already. It's over. Like, yeah, those are always great mornings where you really talk yourself into getting out of bed. And I'll tell you what it does it for me. Not just seeing you fine people, getting to talk to you guys, but this is what gets me out of bed every morning. This is for a double espresso. This is a double espresso cup. Now, traditionally speaking, do I have a cup down here? No. Traditionally speaking, When I have espresso, it's a smaller thing and it's a one and done. You boom, done, right? And you're ready to go. But when I do the show or if I drive somewhere, I like to have a little to-go cup, a little double espresso, right? So you don't just throw it back in one hit. It's usually double. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. I go, if I just get out of bed, I can go have that espresso. I'll just go get that boom, and I'm out of bed. So there you go. Yeah, the AB thing. Look, he came out and said that he was hurt and the Bucs were forcing him to play. Bruce Arians said a totally different story on that. I'm going to go ahead and believe Bruce Arians on this one and not AB. And as everyone has so eloquently already pointed out, if AB was so damn injured, then how the hell was he running across the field and doing jumping jacks through the end zone on his way out? I rest my case. I never liked Antonio Brown. I told you I did like Antonio Brown briefly, and that's when I met him, and I was like, oh, what a nice young man. And then I guess he started to be really, 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 really good at football, and then that was that. I think backup quarterback is the best job in the world. Daniel Tosh does a great bit on, and I agree with this, and I've always agreed with this, and then I heard him do this bit, and I go, oh, we think the same way in this regard. If you're a backup quarterback, it's a great gig. But his point was more so if you're Brett Favre, for instance, and they tell you you can't be a starter anymore. You're like, okay, how much does a backup get paid? Yeah, okay, thank you. I'll take that too. What's the league minimum for a veteran backup quarterback? Oh, $800,000? Yeah, I'll do that job. Oh, what's the veteran backup minimum for a third string quarterback? Okay, I'll do that too. Like, I don't find it sad when great athletes hang on until every drop of athleticism is gone from their body. I don't look at that as sad. I don't look at that as something that, oh, this poor guy, he was so great, and now he's this. His life is still awesome. Are you kidding me? People like that I admire. If I had any athletic ability, folks, if I ever was able to play at the professional level, you'd have to drag me off whatever surface of play I was playing on. If that was a court, if that was ice, not happening. We talked about the nasty knuckles thing, not happening. And whatever it was, you would have to drag me off of that. For one, the money. And two, I just love it. Like, yeah, you tell me it's done? No, thanks. Now, if they told me that I had some like cush broadcasting job afterwards, like, yeah, okay, fine, I get it. But in terms of playing the sport, I don't find it sad at all. I think what people forget in those instances is what made those guys so great early on in their careers is their love of the game and what they're hanging on to, if you even want to call it that, and make it seem like it's some kind of desperate thing, put a desperate connotation on it. They still love the game, which is why they don't want to leave it. I admire that. Said earlier in the week, find someone that loves you as much as Nick Siriani loves ball. That's what I like to tell the good people. Trade for Deshaun, Alex. Thank you. You're kidding. I appreciate that. Alex, you're probably right. What's Alex right about? Oh, trade for Deshaun. Any team that trades for Deshaun Watson prior to any legal issues getting resolved is dumb. That is a dumb, stupid move. Don't do that. Wait till things go on. He just made his first public appearance with his girlfriend, by the way. So that happened. Anyway, backup quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers or Brady would be the ultimate dream job. Weather girl, Farzy, it's snowing. Farzy, that's a cat. What? The Mike Kaye photo is a cat? I don't know any green cats with evil eyes. Il Mariocco for the Italians out there. Anyway, let me take that down. There we go. Good morning, y'all. Happy Friday. Good morning, Mike. Nice to see you. I assumed it was a cemetery tombstone. Luigi, I'm not sure about that in Mike Kaye's profile. Tombstone was an incredible action movie. Fell asleep on Wyatt Earp. See, that's the thing. When I look at a historical drama, like, I want drama. It was like if Wyatt Earp, like, it was as if it was directed by John Woo. Was it directed by John Woo? I don't know. Like, when I watched the movie Wind Talkers all those years ago, remember the movie with the fellow, the guy, Nick Cage? That I call him Nick. Anyway, when people watch that movie, they're like, oh, what a great action movie. I'm like, it's a war movie. It's not supposed to be this dramatic, homage to violence. It's supposed to be a war movie. John Woo turned World War II, and like Jean-Claude Van Damme should have been in it. That's 2 shows in a row with Jean-Claude Van Damme references. You're welcome. Poor Gritty, he deserves better. What? Oh, the Flyers. Yeah, they suck. Morning, Snow sucks, Flyers suck. Now's the time to throw the damn Penguin to trash. Don't make me pull the Penguin out. That sounds terrible. Anyway, Gritty should be banned until this team can actually contend at least for a damn playoff spot. Flyers, you're not wrong, Dan Schwartz. You're not wrong. And good morning to you. Alex, bring Q back on. We'll get Quentin Michael back on. That much I guarantee. Dan Schwartz is our weather girl. Dan is saying that it sucks driving in the snow. Always be careful in the snow, folks. Luigi, what is it with the coaches being addicted to visors? That was the joke about Siriani when he was hired. But even before his introductory press conference, we were looking up clips of him, and he had visors on all of them. And it's just like Chip Kelly, visor. Doug Peterson, visor. Andy Reid, not so much. And then, obviously, you got Siriani with the visor. Big run on visors right now. In the movie Roots, Paper, Scissors, the Nick Sirianni story, I don't think we can find a part for Kevin James. Sorry, Josh. I don't think that's going to happen. And as Luigi accurately points out, why the F would Kevin James be cast in anything at Josh Weinfeld? Well, Luigi, Josh is of I'll go and ruin it for you. Josh is of Buzz Sports and Entertainment. So I'm going to go ahead and agree with him on this, actually. Kevin James is funny AF, says Ben Timmons. If I could, would you? Checkers. Why are we talking about checkers? Today might be a good checkers day. Today might be a good checkers day. I think I'm going to get myself some checkers. That's going to happen. Jerry Stiller? What? King of Queens on Jeopardy? Jerry Stiller. Oh, wow. You guys really stepped in it with Josh and this Kevin James thing. You don't want to mock the Kevin James. I thought the Sean Payton, this is from Buddy. I thought the Sean Payton thing with Kevin James was a spoof at first. So did I, in all honesty. Dan Schwartz. Kevin James was epic in Hitch. Hard to top that. Green Bay drafted Aaron Rodgers, then had Brett Favre, and then they drafted Jordan Love when they had Aaron Rodgers. That's all accurate. That is true, Mad Hatter. Rasul Douglas was a great pick. I liked Rasul Douglas. I know a lot of people are starting to love on Rasul Douglas right now. I always liked the guy's attitude. Thought he was miscast here in Philadelphia. The Minshew condition. That's regular season. I am almost positive that does not include the playoffs. Kaye looks like a mini Lebitar. Interesting observation, Brett. I think I agree with you on that. Can't unsee that now. What? Mike Kaye said it was hot. What? Oh, Lebitar is so on the money. That's what you're saying. Carter, what's up? Good morning. Mike Johnson. Yeah, I'm not betting against Tom Brady unless he's playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl and Nick Foles is your quarterback. Dan, definitely Mike Kaye has a lot of buttons unbuttoned in his Twitter profile. Little bonus was planning on watching the replay. No, Benny, this is live, baby. Whoa, we are well over time, as a matter of fact. Just finished freaking shoveling. East Camden for life. Sorry you had to shovel. That does suck. I will shovel as well. And I take care of my neighbors, too. A couple ladies live next door to me. My other neighbor, we take care of it. You know, we make sure we shovel their walkway. You have 100%. You have killer 100% accurate jump shot, Farzy. Try out for the Sixers. Sean, you're flattering me. Benny, wake and bake, Farzy. Yeah. No, it's more like wake and brew. You know what I'm saying? Minority being a Kevin. Now, I like that our chat has now gone into whether or not Kevin James is funny or good or not. I think Kevin James is fine. However, in the dark recesses of my mind, I play out these scenarios, and no, it's not because I get stoned or anything like that, because I don't get stoned. But this is where my mind travels to. Well, like people are at actual work, this is what I think about. If Chris Farley was still alive, would he have been the Kevin James in those movies, those grown-ups movies? And I can't help but think yes. And I love Chris Farley. There we go. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the chat. That's the chat check, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars. We're going to call it the morning crawl because people are going to be crawling in traffic today because of the snow. So the morning crawl. All I got for you is this. Sixers back in action tonight, 7 o'clock against the San Antonio Spurs. I'm betting Sixers to cover. I think they're going off at 8.5. Was last I checked. 8.5, and Joel Embiid 37.5 over. Sixers cover. Joel Embiid. I like what he has to offer tonight, and hopefully he's in the game because I'm always afraid of when they're going to rest him. But that's what I like tonight. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Also, tonight, I believe it's at 11:30, I'm going to be on the Jason Lee show on PHL 17. He asked me to come on as a guest, talk some sports, and I'm more than happy to oblige. So I'll make sure I tweet that out or retweet his tweet so you guys see what I'm up to tonight. Have a great rest of the weekend, everybody. Have fun shoveling for those that have to shovel. My thanks to Jim Hyden, who produced the program, did a phenomenal job. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production, and very pro Kevin James. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. If the starters play, Eagles win this game 21-17. How's that for optimism? See you guys on Monday. Go Birds. See ya.